Airlines. Gordon, thanks for joining us. You know, as someone who is an industry veteran, do you agree with Mr. Buffett's assessment here?
Well, absolutely. I think he's probably understating the problem in that the supply chain for, say, a Boeing goes around the world. And there are a lot of other public companies dependent on that Boeing business to make their target earnings and their expectations for their shareholders. So we're not only going to have a depression on airline investors and the airlines themselves, but all those people that the component makers and the engine makers and all those equities are going to suffer. That's going to temper not only the business viability, but you've also got what Warren mentioned is this confidence factor. And who do you want to, you're in a 150-seat or a 250-seat tube sitting next to whom, and what do they have? And so until you feel that you've got a vaccine that immunizes you from whatever it is, you're never going to have that comfort level you had before this COVID-19. So you got two logs there. You got a huge backlog of airplanes parked, so Boeing doesn't need to make any more airplanes because they can't afford the ones they've already sold. And number two, you've got this creeping slow, you can't make it happen confidence issue that people have to have before they go. It's just the next 3 years are going to be bleak.
So what are you saying? It's going to take 3 years to see what the demand for airline travel that we saw in 2019?
Yeah, I pulled that 3 years out of my tail, and I don't have any scientific data. I'm just knowing that, fear is an unreasonable thing, and there's a lot of unreasonable fears out there. As you can see some of the bizarre behavior. You notice people go to great lengths to stay sanitized. But at the same time, none of that, the economy was hitting on all cylinders before this COVID-19, which meant the capacity of the airlines were growing. They're ordering new planes, expanding new routes, new opportunities for business. And all of a sudden, that just got shut down. And up until the governments and, of course, the constituents, the people, need to get back on airplanes and feel that they're going to be safe doing it, it's never going to happen to the extent that it has in the past. And I don't know how long that takes. You'd have to be a personal meter. Your guess would be as good as mine. But I know it's got to be a year or two before there are no more COVID-19s picked up flying someplace. That really set us back.
I got to say, Gordon, it's even more bearish hearing this from you because you're always a defender of this industry and of these companies. And I know you probably would agree with Buffett that it's not fault of their own. I just wonder how unique the airline industry is and some of these operational challenges and travel demand and financial and even political considerations versus other industries that have been hit and other parts of our economy that are suffering as a result of this pandemic.
Well, as Warren mentioned, there's four big boys, and they're all run by smart people. And part of their plan going forward has always been, what do we do in the case of a black swan event like this COVID-19? And their fleet and how it matures, whether the leases expire or they can sell them, all that fleet ability to remove that debt off your balance sheet is important. So you see lots of airplanes parked. You're going to see early returns to lessors. You're going to try to manage that fixed cost, which is horrible. And, of course, we've got only till September 30th has the government bailed out the employees. So September 30th, all that free money that's been paying their salaries for doing nothing, essentially these past few months, is going to disappear. And so that's going to be catastrophic, to a whole lot of families. But then swim upstream and go in to say, who made those parts and how many Spirit Corporation in Wichita, Kansas makes the 737 fuselage. They don't have a customer until they get orders for that airplane. And who's going to be buying airplanes in the near term? So I don't see a really rapid uptick in equities in the airlines. I really feel sorry for my friends who are stuck in this time because it's through no fault of their own. But this is, like I said, more of a black swan event than I think I've ever faced in my life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people obviously agree with you, Gordon. Crandall was on earlier this morning. He did say that commercial flight is a national imperative, that it needs to be insured by a nation to make sure it exists. And I just wonder if you see us going to more of a Dubai-like model where it's state-supported and fare structure looks a lot different because of the regulation that would follow.
I have the utmost respect for Bob Crandall, and he's smart, but I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about human nature. It's not the government. I mean, if some politician pats you on the tail and say, it's okay, Carl, you can get on the airplane, I wouldn't take a lot of comfort in that, because what do they know? What you want to see is facts and data that the COVID's gone, there's not any threat, you can get on it, you can get a common cold anywhere. But until you reach that, airlines is just like getting on a subway or taking a Uber to eat dinner. It's not going to be the same. And of course, the cost of the airline itself, the cost of the tickets, has really come down given the really smart competition and the way they've grown. So that ability to go where you want to go and get back the same night is going to be impaired, as well as your own desire to go in the first place. So Bob's right, but I don't think the government can fix this. It's not a government issue.
No. But to Carl's question, Gordon, and it's David, are we, listening to you for the last 5 minutes, it sounds to me like we may get to a point where the government's going to have to make a decision as to whether to nationalize almost the airlines. I mean, do you see that as a real possibility? Do some of these become like Amtrak, or at least for some period of time, become wards of the state until the environment changes enough that they can be profitable companies again?
I think that there's always that possibility. That's pretty draconian. Obviously, Amtrak never made a nickel, so if you want to drive them into that part of the income stream, I think just to have the airline take it over, they're not going to run it any better than the people that run it today. What it is to get a confidence factor in our economy, that you are going to get the order for the seats, or you are going to get the order for the engine, and all these things around the world, and go back to work. And once you go back to work, you've got to fly, because business, as was mentioned, is 45% of the traffic, and that's got to happen. And the government saying we're going to own you just ensures that it's going to be a national drain on our economy.